Our next storyteller is Marsha Fox. Most of our mistakes so far have been about school or work, but apparently you can make mistakes on vacation too. Marsha's story is about that kind of mistake. Please welcome to the stage, Marsha Fox.
Tough act to follow, but we'll see what we can do. So our driver pulled the van up to a street corner and stopped and indicated that we'd arrived. And I peered out at the storefronts and realized I didn't know exactly where we should be going. I told him I thought there was a problem. We were supposed to be going to a home. Unfortunately, he didn't understand me. He didn't speak English, only Hindi. We were in Badohi, a town north of Varanasi, India, and we were there to meet the family of a man who exports carpets. You see, in 2010, I won the WBUR Trip to India sweepstakes. Yeah, you didn't know anyone before that won that. Put in your donations now. Landry and Arcari, carpet importers, were the sponsors of the contest. I was a little apprehensive about taking my then 8-year-old son, Aiden, halfway around the world, but I had a trip planned with forts, museums, palaces, and even a tiger safari, and we would have guides and drivers at every destination. And so in November, we found ourselves flying into Delhi, and we toured the city. We saw a fabulous tower, a Hindu tower, 1,000 years old. Then we went to Nepal, which was a crazy quilt of temples and shrines to Hindu and Buddhist deities. We paid tribute to the goddess of the Ganges River, Hindu goddess. Landry and Arcari had offered one cultural experience for the trip, a visit with one of the carpet merchants they dealt with. We'd visit their carpet factory and meet his family. Very nice people, I was told. And I was very grateful for the opportunity to get to meet and have a personal interaction with family. And so we found ourselves 6 days into the trip in our chauffeured van, driving into the business district of Badohi, far off the beaten tourist track. Our driver got on the cell phone and we had a frenetic conversation, and after a few minutes, he handed me the phone and I spoke with the tour manager. There'd been some confusion. The driver had been given the wrong directions, and worse, the carpet merchant had not been told that we were coming. He had just been called and had said to come along, and so with 10 minutes notice, we arrived on a stranger's doorstep. We were greeted at the entrance by the carpet merchant and his wife. They ushered us into a large compound and into their living quarters. He explained that he lived there with his family, his mother, 2 brothers and their families on the 2nd floor, and the carpet factory was on the 1st. Unfortunately, he said the carpet factory was closed that day because it was a holiday and there was really nothing to see. So we sat and talked, and we explained how we'd come to India and what we'd seen, and then they brought us a meal of goat biryani, and they were pleased to tell us that that morning they had slaughtered the goat. And after a while, we met some of the family, including one of the merchant's brothers, who was a young doctor. But the majority of the family were 3 generations of women, wives, daughters, aunts. They were very well educated, spoke very good English, and peppered us with questions about life in America. They were very interested in Aiden and wanted to know what he because they were interested in Aiden because they didn't see American kids very often, and they wanted to know what he thought about India, what he liked best. The monkeys was his reply. Then it was time to meet the matriarch of the family, the mother of the brothers. She was an elderly, small, bent woman. She was dressed from head to toe in pure white. And I knew she didn't speak English, so I, put my hands together, gave her a small bow, said what I understood to be the customary greeting in India, namaste. Marsha, the doctor cried, laughing, that's Hindu. We're Muslims. We say assalamu alaikum, peace be upon you. I was stunned and embarrassed and turned beet red. Should I have known that? I thought back to our time in Delhi. We'd asked the guide about men we saw herding goats around through the city. Those are Muslims, he said. They have a big holy day coming, Eid al-Adha. They slaughter the goats and they share the meat with friends and family and the needy. I suddenly realized not only had we shown up on this family's doorstep unannounced, it was on one of their most sacred days, and they had shared their meat with us. The old woman smiled and nodded and said something, and everyone laughed, and nobody seemed terribly offended by my blunder. The doctor, the men excused themselves and went off to the mosque for prayers. When the doctor returned, he said that he was sorry that Aiden hadn't gotten a chance to see the carpet factory, and in fact, they had cousins who had a carpet factory, and they were less well off than this family, and so they were operating today, and would we like to go and see it? And of course, everyone said they wanted to go, and so we got in our van, and much to my waiting driver's surprise, 6 young women in Punjabi suits and veils and colorful veils, Aiden, myself, and the doctor, and we went off to the cousin's house. Now, the cousins, of course, had to entertain not only their wealthier relatives, but their American guests. So the woman of the household brought out her best but very meager dessert, and of course we had to eat because she would be terribly hurt if we didn't. Then we went to see the factory, which was a large room with tall ceilings and dark with large looms and woven carpets and piles of wool. It only took a few minutes, and soon we were heading back to the compound, and I decided it was time to go. So we said our goodbyes, and as the women stood on the balcony and smiled and waved, I snapped their picture, and then we were off. Throughout our stay in India, we were mostly immersed in Hindu culture. But the remnants of the Muslim empire that swept through northern India in the 12th century and was in power for over 600 years is everywhere, in the fabulous palaces and the mosques, and especially in the Muslim people. A small, somewhat, what are they? Resented minority in a country that claims to be secular, but we found to be deeply religious. And on that day, we met one family who welcomed us into their home, shared their food and their good humor, and made a day that could have been a fiasco into a day that I will cherish forever. Assalamu alaikum. Namaste.